Good morning and welcome to online worship with the Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the minister of this church. I'm feeling good today because I can see buds and leaves on all the trees now, so I know that spring is coming. I feel that we are turning a corner and hope is in bloom. And I hope that's true for you too today, wherever you are. I'm also in a good mood because I just found out a second ago that last night on Saturday Night Live, Brad Pitt played Dr. Fauci. Now, I have got to see that. So that's my plan for this afternoon. Everyone is most welcome to join us here in online worship, and thank you for coming. If you'd like more information about our church, you can get it anytime at melroseuu.org, and you can also donate there if you feel so moved. If you live in the Melrose area and you need help and support in these days, please contact our caring team at caring@melroseuu.org. If you need a listening ear, more information about our church, or confidential financial support, you can also email me at minister@melroseuu.org. For those who are considering joining our church as a member, we're having a special gathering on Zoom this afternoon. And if you're interested too, I'd be happy to invite you along. Just put your email address into the chat box and I'll send you the link. Congratulations goes to our Green Sanctuary Committee who hosted a lovely worship service last week so that I could have a Sunday off. Thank you very much. After worship today, around noon, here in this same Zoom space, we'll be holding a financial forum. That's where we share and discuss our church budgets for this year and for next year. All are welcome to join us. Just stay here. Next Sunday, May 3rd, we'll have our special service to welcome new members to the church. And on May 19th, we're holding our annual meeting via Zoom when we'll vote on our budget and our leaders for next year. For all the church news and info, please be sure to read your Thursday email newsletter. To sign up for that or to check your voting status, please email office@melroseuu.org. Before we get started today, I want to give a shout out to my helpers. Michelle A. is hosting the chat box. Thank you, Michelle. And Dan G. is being the tech support host today. And also thanks to all the folks who will be our breakout room hosts for virtual coffee hour later on. Thank you all for your help and support. Today's service is called Liberated from Suffering, Lessons from Buddhism for a Time of Pandemic. Folks who have been with us before may know that throughout April, we've been exploring themes of liberation and surrender, especially as they related to the Jewish festival of Passover and the Christian celebration of Easter. Today, we turn to Buddhism for two main reasons. One, as Unitarian Universalists, we consider all the world religions as sources for inspiration and ethical instruction. And two, we acknowledge and celebrate that Buddhism holds centuries of human wisdom about how to handle anxiety and fear, which maybe could be useful in our current predicament. We shall see. Now, let us start worship this morning by greeting one another. Take a moment to scroll through all those Zoom windows and look at all those beautiful faces, wave and smile and send out all your virtual hugs. Good morning. It's so great to see all your faces. Look at all these lovely people we have here. Wonderful. That was Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves, which is a UU hymn. Was I muted then? That was Be Ye Lamps Unto Yourselves, which is a UU hymn. And it's based on a quote, of course, a famous quote from the Buddha. Our call to worship this morning are words by the Reverend Gretchen Haley. Life comes for us in 1,000 different ways, undoes plans and upends traditions, knocks down the doors of our defense in a moment. Every expectation releases like the in and out of breath. Life is urgent and also unbearably slow and does not take well to our fantasies of control. We gather here to practice, surrendering to the waves of grace and grief. In song, in silence, in story, we come to remember the possibility of a larger call, that we might offer our gifts with a surprising generosity, that we might release ourselves from the needing to know, that we might simply be present to this beauty, these partners, this hope we make together. Come, let us worship together. And now, as I light our church's chalice, which is the symbol of our living faith, which is lit this morning in churches all around the world, Jane F. has our chalice lighting reading. Jane.
Liberation by Reverend Suzelle Lynch. Liberation means releasing ourselves from outgrown habits of mind and heart. It means upholding the voice and vote of citizenship, affirming freedom of belief and expression, and answering the call of justice. Because we know that none of us are truly free until all of us are free. May the light of this chalice inspire us to greater love and greater liberation.
Let us join together in our opening hymn.
Please join me in singing our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, yet again, come.
Now let us read together the words of our covenant, which Dan will share on a slide. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
Let peace, good
it's time for our story for all ages.
Morning, everyone. Our story today comes from Zen Shorts, written and illustrated by John J. Month. In this book, the author retells some classic Buddhist stories through a panda named Stillwater that has made friends with 3 siblings. Zen is a Japanese word for meditation that is sometimes used in Buddhism. One of the teachings of Buddha is to meditate while calming your mind and yet remaining alert. In this way, you allow your thoughts to appear in your mind and float away without holding on to any of them. One way you might visualize the goal of this kind of meditation, of being Zen, is a reflection in water. When the water is still, you can see a reflection that is clear and a good representation of what is really there, like in this image. When the water is moving or agitated, the reflection becomes blurry and distorted. According to Buddhist teachings, it is the same with our minds. When we are agitated, our minds can't think clearly about what is really happening. When we are able to get our minds to be still, we are able to see the truth of the situation much more clearly. And that is why the panda in this story is called Stillwater, because he represents that clear state of mind that allows us to accurately see the situation. Michael, there's a bear outside, said Carl. A what? Called Michael. A bear. He's really big and he's in the backyard. What's he doing? Michael asked. He's sitting. He has an umbrella, said Carl. An umbrella? By the time the boys got outside, their sister Addie was already talking with him. I'm sorry for arriving unannounced, said the bear. The wind carried my umbrella all the way from my backyard to your backyard. I thought I would retrieve it before it became a nuisance. He spoke with a slight panda accent. Michael introduced himself. Then Addie introduced Carl, because Carl was shy around bears he didn't know. And this is how Addie, Michael, and Carl met Stillwater. The next day, Michael went to see Stillwater. Here I am, Stillwater called from the tree. Can I come up? Asked Michael. If you are careful, said Stillwater. What if we could fly, said Michael. We could cast shadows on clouds, said Stillwater. What if we fell, said Michael. If we fell, we might break something, said Stillwater. That would be bad, said Michael. Maybe, said Stillwater. Maybe, asked Michael. The farmer's luck. There was once an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. Such bad luck, they said sympathetically. Maybe, Emma replied. The next morning, the horse returned, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. Such good luck, the neighbors exclaimed. Maybe, replied the farmer. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown off and broke his leg. Again, the neighbors came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. Such bad luck, they said. Maybe, answered the farmer. The day after that, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army to fight in a war. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. Such good luck, cried the neighbors. Maybe, said the farmer. I get it, said Michael. Maybe good luck and bad luck are all mixed up. You never know what will happen next. Yes, said Stillwater. You never know. I hope that story helps you to think about things in your own life a little bit differently, as it has for me. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Katie. And now it is our time that we take every week for centering. Let's take a deep breath together. This is a time we have quiet and peace so that each of us can get in touch with our inner selves, our highest aspirations, our own sense of the divine mystery. First, we'll share a centering song. Right after that, we will sit in silence together for 2 minutes, and we'll come out of it with a chime. Then we'll share with one another our candles of joy and sorrow, and I will wrap it all up with a shared prayer. So as we move into this time of prayer and meditation, I invite you to take your hands away from your keyboard, place them in your lap or wherever feels comfortable, and settle into your seat. Again, let's take a nice deep breath together. And as we move into our centering song, though we remain muted, I invite you to sing along however you are comfortable. And now we sit together and share a few minutes of silence. Every week we take time to share with one another the milestones of our lives. In sharing our joys, they feel multiplied. In sharing our sorrows, they feel carried by all. I invite you now, if you have a milestone to mark, to type into the chat window the word candle, followed by the personal joy or sorrow you want to share. Michelle A., our chat host, will read them, including your first name and last initial, and I will light our candles.
Good morning. First, we have a candle of joy from Cheryl R. Chris's mom got released from the rehab on Friday and is back home now. We are so happy to have her back there. We hope that she continues to heal from COVID from home. From Garen B., a candle of joy and concern. Last year, I signed on to work for one of the nicest guys I know. I am proud to report this weekend is my 1-year anniversary at BKJ Productions, working for my amazing boss, Brian Johnson. Especially at this time, I feel very fortunate to still have a job and steady work. Thank you for a great, highly atypical year, Brian. I also would like to light a candle of loss for BKJ Productions, head mystic, Walter Ness. Walter passed away last weekend. A true one-of-a-kind. I will really miss his humor and friendship. From Jean T., a candle of gratitude, love, and friendship for all who have sent cards, emails, and more after the passing of my mother. Thank you, MUUC. From Brian K. J., a candle to Ditto Garen. My avatar today is Walter Ness. From Florence C., a candle of sorrow for the Keller family who lost their grandfather to COVID last week and found out that their grandmother is also positive, praying for their strength and comfort. From Laura S. and Allison F., a candle of joy that we're making macarons for the first time. From Liz F., or this may be a different Liz, a candle of concern for my 87-year-old mother who is quite ill in rehab, not COVID, but still serious. From Vanessa R., a candle of gratitude for all the support and love from the church and from the 100+ people who joined in a procession for my brother Ed Roman yesterday. The procession was very moving and touching. From Stacy B., a candle of sorrow for the passing of our sister-in-law's mother, Christy Leatherwood. From Jane F., from Chuck F., a candle of sorrow for a mentor of mine, John F., John the fireman from years ago, passed away from COVID this week. From Adrian W., candles of peace for my brother Ian and his wife and daughters for the loss of their beautiful dog Jack, who died suddenly this week. From Michael F. and Nancy N., a candle of sorrow from Michael O., a good friend and golf partner from the Cape. Stan S. died from COVID-19. He was a good-hearted man and will be missed. From Lisa W.W., a candle of gratitude to friends near and far and old and new who are helping to get masks for our family. A candle of sorrow for all those struggling with the isolation of not being able to go out. From Jennifer S., a candle of sorrow for the community in Lawrence, which is suffering a very high infection rate of COVID-19. And we have an adjustment from Vanessa R. Her earlier candle was from her dad, Joe, who lost his brother. From Paula A., a candle of concern for her close friend working in Boston with the homeless. From Erin H.A., a candle of birthday joy to the fabulous Mary Beth G. Happy birthday, and thank you to Facebook for the tip. To Florence C., from Florence C., a candle of sorrow for Senator Warren, who lost her brother to COVID. And a candle of support for her friend Heidi, working in healthcare. And Reverend Suzanne, if you would like one more candle for all the joys and sorrows that remain unspoken this morning.
Thank you, Michelle, for your help. Please join me, if you would, in the spirit of prayer. Every morning, every morning when he wakes up, the Dalai Lama, who is the spiritual leader of Tibetan Buddhism, prays the same prayer. It's his way of reaffirming the direction of his life and the direction of his heart before he starts the day. To me, this prayer transcends space and time. It feels directly relevant to our moment, although it comes from Shantideva, an 8th century Buddhist monk. In English, it goes like this. May I be a guard for those who need protection. When I seek protection, may I find it and share it. For those who wish to cross a further shore, may I be a boat, a raft, a bridge. May I be open to the companionship of others as I make my way to places still before me. May I be a lamp in the darkness for all who seek it. May that light never be extinguished from my own sight and my own heart. May I be a resting place for the weary and be healing medicine for all who are sick. May I know the salve of others for my own afflictions, whether of the body or of the mind or of the heart. Where others see scarcity, may I see a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles. As part of the boundless multitude of living beings, may I bring sustenance and awakening, freedom from sorrow, and may I delight in our common existence. Holding most tenderly those with broken hearts, let us sit together for a moment in stillness. Amen. As many of you know, Nick Page is a talented musical performer, well known in many of our UU churches. He is also the husband of Nita, one of our dear members. So Tara, our music director, was happy to collaborate with Nick this past week and a couple of his chorale members on this lovely offertory piece for you to enjoy now. If you do enjoy it and the rest of the service, please consider donating via our website, melroseuu.org.
Sometimes I feel so discouraged and think my work's in vain, in vain. But then the Sacred Spirit revives my soul again and again. We pray. So feel the love around you. This love can heal your soul. If you let this Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the love around you. Feel the love. Feel the love. Feel the
Our reading this morning is from the Buddhist teacher Anya Tenhane. It is said the Buddha once asked a student, if a person is struck by an arrow, is it painful? If the person is struck by a second arrow, is it even more painful? The Buddha then went on to explain, in life, we can't always control the first arrow. However, the second arrow is our reaction to the first. The second arrow is optional. Tenhane writes, this teaching is sometimes interpreted as meaning that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. I'm not sure I would go this far. To my mind, there are clearly situations where to experience suffering is the only human response. However, it is true that our interpretation of events plays a large role in how we experience them, and that we do have a tendency to over-dramatize much of what happens to us. Let's say someone at home or work leaves a pile of dirty dishes in the sink. You notice it and have an immediate reaction of annoyance. So far, so good. But what often happens next is we think, he or she is always leaving a mess for me to clean up. How many times have I said, blah, blah, blah? They clearly don't care for me at all. Why am I always underappreciated? It would have been better if I'd never been born at all. Tenhane writes, so that last bit is probably, hopefully, a slight exaggeration, but we can go quite quickly from a situation, someone annoys us, our arm hurts, we're coming down with a cold, to extrapolating all kinds of emotions and thoughts from that, which have little to do with the original stimulus. These can be seen as the second arrows of suffering, the ones we add on to the original arrows, which life is already flinging at us in any case. The story is not about denying our initial reaction to pretend we are immune from pain. It is about having a choice in how to proceed next. Over time, having an awareness of this choice and reframing it from flinging endless second arrows at ourselves can help to liberate us from much unnecessary suffering. Here ends the reading. So let me start today's little sermon with one of my favorite quotes about Buddhism. It goes like this. If you can sit quietly after difficult news, if in financial downturns you remain perfectly calm, if you can see your neighbors travel to fantastic places without a twinge of jealousy, if you can happily eat whatever is put on your plate, if you can fall asleep after a day of running around without a pill or a drink or a pill, if you can find contentment just where you are, you're probably a dog. I like that quote because I think it's funny. But I think it also gets to a fundamental truth about Buddhist practice, or any spiritual practice for that matter. It doesn't come easy to us humans. Nobody, no human person gets it right most of the time. Nobody can sit quietly after difficult news, or remain perfectly calm in a financial downturn, or always find contentment. It's just not possible unless you're a dog, and then it's easy. The quote is from a book by Buddhist teacher and clinical psychologist Jack Kornfield. I was reminded of it when I saw that Kornfield has just been profiled less than 2 weeks ago in the New York Times Magazine under the amazing headline, "Things Keep Getting Scarier. He Can Help You Cope." The Times identified Kornfield as one of America's true mindfulness pioneers, and then asked him about our current national situation. Epidemics are part of the cycle of life on this planet, Kornfield said. The choice is how we respond, with greed and hatred and fear and ignorance, or with generosity, clarity, steadiness, and love. The choice is how we respond. We do indeed have a choice, and that is the topic of my sermon today. Our country and we as individuals are living through a time of large-scale pain and suffering. And Buddhism is a resource we can draw on, a treasure trove of centuries of wisdom about how to manage pain and suffering, how to make choices that reduce our own pain and suffering and that of the people around us. So how do we do that? Drawing both on Kornfield's work and on my own study of Buddhism, I want to humbly offer you 3 suggestions today. Number 1, let go of the suffering. Number 2, allow the pain. And number 3, be the light. 1, let go of the suffering. Now that's the easiest piece, I think, in my opinion. What do I mean? Well, I think it's well illustrated in the reading that I chose for today about the 2 arrows. Buddhism teaches us that life will always include some kind of pain. That is inevitable, and we will deal with that in a moment in the sermon. But first, let's let go of what is optional, and that is the suffering that we often layer on top of the pain, like when someone leaves us a pile of dishes or cuts us off in traffic. The pain is real, but then we add on our own stories on top of that. He did that because he's trying to hurt me, or because I'm unworthy, or what have you. And these stories, especially if we tell them to ourselves over and over, can multiply the original damage. But if you bring awareness to those stories, if you can catch yourself telling them, you can detach from them. For example, in truth and reality, you don't know why he left the dirty dishes. Maybe he was distracted or upset, maybe late for a phone meeting. Quite possibly, the dishes have nothing to do with you at all. So there's no reason for you to add suffering. Maybe it's just dirty dishes and nothing more. I was thinking about this week and thinking this teaching could be really helpful to people who are stuck in quarantine with other people who are perhaps not doing their chores, or not doing them exactly the way we had envisioned them doing them. So let go of guessing other people's motivations, because honestly, you don't actually know what other people are thinking unless you ask them. And Buddhism teaches us to let go of harmful stories you may be telling yourself about your own motivation, or your worthiness, or your anxiety. You are doing the best you can in a difficult situation. I believe that. And I want you to remember that and give yourself a break and a hug. If just for today you can liberate yourself from unnecessary suffering, you will have achieved so much. Suggestion number 2, allow the pain. Now this is a little bit more difficult, so I turn to Kornfield because he is the Buddhist master for guidance. If you can, Kornfield says, sit quietly and breathe and try to feel kindness and compassion for yourself. Then, if feelings of anxiety or fear arise within you, just gently allow these feelings to be present. In the New York Times piece, Cornfield says, "You could almost whisper to yourself, sadness, fear, anxiety, grief, longing, as if to bow to that feeling and hold it with respect. That allows the feeling to open, maybe intensify for a bit, but eventually to soften." The next step, says Cornfield, is to bring a sense of compassion for all the fears and confusion and helplessness. He says, if I make space for the feelings and they have time to be felt, it's as if my awareness gets bigger and I can hold all of this with greater ease and compassion and presence and steadiness, unquote. And now I know this is hard. So much in our American culture invites us to run away from pain, to escape it as often as possible. But in truth, that never quite works, does it? We don't leave the pain behind, and sometimes the effort to escape it becomes addiction or debt or causes more pain. If only we could learn every day to allow the pain, we would see that it passes. Sooner than we think, it passes. And the more often we learn to hold our pain with compassion, the more we become compassionate people, able to offer love and support to others who need us. Then the New York Times reporter asked Cornfield, "What about grief?" He says, "What I know from 50 years of meditation and doing hospice work is that we are not just this body. You are made of spirit, and the spirit makes it so that even if people have died, we're still profoundly connected to them in love. In that sense, they haven't exactly died. They are in us, not only in our hearts, but also somehow in our very being. Knowing this does not take the grief away, but it lets us know something bigger than all of that. Who I am is not just this body. We are consciousness." Unquote. And here's my step 3 for you. Be the light. In our daily lives, if we can learn to allow the pain and to let go of the suffering, we can become available to live out our purpose in the world. A bodhisattva vows to alleviate suffering and bring blessings in every circumstance, says Cornfield. They choose to live with dignity and courage and radiate compassion for all. He goes on, the beautiful thing is that we can see bodhisattvas all around us in these days of COVID-19. We see them in the bravery of the healthcare workers or in the unheralded ones who drive the trucks and stock the shelves of our grocery stores so we can all continue to eat. And now it's time to add our part to this great dance. He says, this is what we are here for. It's time to make a vow, to sit quietly, rest your heart and ask, what is my best intention, my most noble aspiration in this difficult time? If you quiet yourself, your heart will answer. The answer could be simple. I vow to be kind no matter what. And when you find the answer in yourself, write it down and place it somewhere you'll remember. Then when you feel lost or confused, take a breath and remember that vow. Because it's time to become the lamp in the darkness, my friend. Where others hoard, you help. Where others deceive, you stand up for truth. Where others are uncaring, you become kind and respectful. This is what's possible for us as human beings in this moment, unquote. So what is possible for you in this moment, for us? Can you rest your heart, set a noble intention, and live as your true Bodhisattva self? I believe you can. Epidemics are part of the cycle of life on this planet. The choice is how we respond. We do indeed have a choice. In this time of pain and suffering, when fear and anxiety can lead to more pain and suffering, I choose to listen to Jack Kornfield and 1,000 years of Buddhist teaching. I choose to let go of the suffering, allow the pain so that I can be the light. Now, in order to bless ourselves, to bless these, our sacred intentions, and to bless one another, let us join together in our closing hymn, which is based on the ancient Buddhist metta meditation. May you be filled with loving kindness. Let us all sing together with Tara. And now our benediction. A bodhisattva alleviates suffering, brings blessings, and lives with dignity, courage, and compassion. In these days before us, let us all let go of the suffering, allow the pain, so that we might then shine out the light of loving kindness and become our true bodhisattva selves. Amen.